I'm Batman.
Who are you?
My name is Bond. I'm Batman.
Name's Bond.
James Bond.
I'm Batman.
Bond. James Bond. I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
This is the Batman vs. James Bond show. The show covering everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. And now, here's your host, Brian Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. The name's Thomas, Brian Thomas, and I am your host. Thanks for joining me. This is the show where we discuss everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. Yeah, it is good to be back. I hope you guys had a great week. I know I did. A very busy and exciting one at most. Yeah, let's bring him in right now, making his epic return back to the Batman vs. James Bond show. Joining me this week is Mr. Christian Evangelista. Welcome back, man.
Hey.
How you doing?
Hey, everyone.
How are you?
Doing good.
That's good. You had an eventful week, or weekend, should I say.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are going to talk about that in great detail tonight because you probably got a different perspective than I did on certain things, and yeah, so
sounds good.
Yeah, cool. So I take it you have been listening possibly to the last couple episodes, hopefully.
Yeah. Yes, I have. I've been listening to everyone pretty much the day it comes out. So.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate your support. And to the audience, before we get started, just want to remind everyone to please subscribe to the Batman vs. James Bond show on Spreaker and or iTunes and leave a nice little review for me on there. I would very much appreciate it. Help me spread the word with this episode or this show once an episode is posted. That'd be great. So Christian, let's just hop right into it. You know, like I say every week, first of all, I'm not a movie critic. I am not maybe I'm a blogger. I guess I have my own podcast and so forth. But I am not one of the guys who goes on a movie website and, writes articles and so forth. I'm just a fan. You're a fan. That's the purpose of this whole show. So, having said that, there's a lot of fans out there that are, big supporters of this topic. And this would be Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. And what were your thoughts on that again? Just to recap real quick.
So I thought it was a flawed movie, but it wasn't necessarily a bad movie. I did see it twice. I enjoyed it more the second time. I think a part of it's because my expectations, I knew where to place my expectations the second time I saw it.
Okay.
And I mean, the Ultimate Edition.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
When it comes out, because I'm curious to see if what gets added on improves on it, or if it maybe even makes it worse. Who knows? But we won't know until we see it.
That's right. And that's actually what I was leading into. I've said many times before that, I had high expectations going into Batman v Superman. I didn't love the movie. And it doesn't mean that I hated it at the same time. I fall in that in-between where my expectations might have been too high. I don't know. Maybe because of previous Batman movies, or maybe it just, what we were given, what was shown to us. And even when this movie came out, it was to the point where it was Zack Snyder or just all the talk up saying, oh, well, there's also going to be a rated R edition coming out soon. And that was even right before the movie hit theaters. And this is coming hot off the heels of Deadpool, which came out a month before, and no one could have seen the success of that movie. And well, just say it wasn't a high budget, superhero movie. It was a lower budget. It was rated R, and not many people knew the character except for the diehard fans, but it made a mint. Now, you have two of the most, I would like to say the most popular, in Marvel fans or whoever can probably scold me on that, that Batman and Superman are probably at least in the top 5 of biggest superheroes out there. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, heck, I am a Marvel fan, and I can acknowledge that Batman and Superman are some of the icons of the industry. There's no disputing that.
Right. So when all this went down, though, we heard that there was going to be a rated R edition, and, now we just got word this past week that it's going to happen. It's going to be released on July 19th. and that's when we're going to end up getting it. It's great. Let me go to here. It says Warner Brothers, officially announced the details of the Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition Blu-ray. It's going to have new footage with 3-hour extended cut. It is going to be rated R. It will run 182 minutes longer, over 30 minutes than the theatrical version. It'll be available in digital HD on June 28th and hits Blu-ray on July 19th. It's going to have all kinds of features, uniting the world's finest, gods and men, a meeting of giants, all kinds of things in there. But when I posted about this, and I love to post on Instagram, and for all the listeners out there, check out the Instagram, Batman versus Bond. I post all kinds of stuff, James Bond related, memes, Batman, whatever. So I made a meme on there, and it says, when the haters are silenced by the Ultimate Edition trailer, they just got served some justice. And I have the how it should have ended, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman in there. Mm-hmm. And boy, did this thing get a lot of more negative comments than I could have imagined. Now, I know I was excited when I heard about the Ultimate Edition because I didn't get a chance to see the movie a second time. So, of course, I'm antsy because now I want to see even more footage. And, will it make the movie better? That's going to be the question here. And how everybody reacted to these, the comments were just all kinds of things. It said, the trailer still sucked. Captain Miracle Civil War is better. It's like, okay, well, I didn't even mention about Civil War at all on this. There was all kinds of things saying, they should have gotten it right the first time. Let's hope the extra 30 minutes can improve. It was all kinds of things. And I just reading these comments, and the movie was excellent. The edition will be even more excellent. All kinds of things. So I want to know what your thoughts are. Obviously, like we said, the movie didn't get quite the reaction that everybody expected, and of course the studio. But, should they have Warner Brothers just gone ahead and just said, hey, let's just, release everything at one time and so forth? What do you think?
Honestly, I'm not surprised that they did a director's cut because, well, first of all, it was a long movie, and I'm not saying this, disparagingly, but it was a long movie anyways. Mm-hmm. And when it comes down to it, it's also about money and how many times you can show it in a day. If it's too long, you can only show it so many times in a day. Whereas if it's shorter, you can show it more times, get more money. And also, there's a precedence for Zack Snyder doing this because with Watchmen, which was a long movie as well. Mm-hmm. And he released, at least 2 or 3 different cuts of it when it went on DVD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's known for doing that, definitely. So there's no surprise there, and I'm sure there's probably another Justice League, edition that we'll get in the next 2-3 years, whatever it's going to be. Like I said on there, in the end, I just want this movie, I just want to see a good movie. I just want to, enjoy it for what it is. And right. And even as I posted this, and I said, let me clear something up. An extended cut of a movie cannot undo what it did in theaters. The studio should have released the best version of the movie to begin with. Regardless, I'm looking forward to the Ultimate Edition has to offer. If it helps improve what's there, then awesome. So that's my feelings on it. I'm going to buy it. I knew I was going to buy it to begin with, even though I, still think it's like a 3 out of 5, 3.5 at most. There's maybe a couple scenes can clear things up. I know it, and this is going more in Marvel universe, but with Daredevil, I always heard that the director's cut made that movie a hell of a lot better than what we got in theaters.
Yeah, I've seen that director's cut as well, and it actually, a lot of the cheesiness of the movie was still there, but there was also, you actually had, other than, the opening scene, you had Matt Murdock being more of a lawyer, so I thought that was good. But the thing that I'm really looking forward to is, I remember, I'm not trying to remember the actress's name now, but there's one actress who got cut out of the movie entirely. Yeah. And there was all these rumors whether she was going to be Batgirl or Oracle, some form of Barbara Gordon, or was she Robin, or who knows. And so I'm like, and you saw one shot of her in the trailer. I'm wondering, all right, who is she? Is she actually a comic book character, or is she just a random character that, was thrown in?
Yeah, I need to find her name. I know who you're talking about. I don't know if the name off the top of my head, but there's speculation, of course, of Batgirl. She could be even Vicky Vale. I've heard things like that too. So, it's I almost wish, like I said, that all, as we wrap this up here, I just wish that they just would have put the best version of that movie that they could have, instead of, obviously, what was handed to us was just kind of something trimmed down, which, how it was shot, how it was edited, and it just back and forth and back and forth. And, it hurt them in the long run. And, maybe the Blu-ray and HD sales can help them, but, at the end, it wasn't the best call that they could have made, but we will see.
Jenna Malone.
Jenna Malone. That's right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love the trailer that they showed for this, and it's easy for me to be sold on a trailer. I love trailers, and I've seen so many trailers that are better than movies that, and it gives the story away in 2 minutes, but I don't care. There's sometimes trailers are spoiler free, sometimes they give away everything, and that's the problem with trailers too. This one, obviously, we know what's coming to us, but some of that new stuff, you see Batman on the video camera, and he's just kind of jumping down, kind of like he does in the cartoon. I've seen pictures of that already. You have a quote by Alfred in there, and he's saying, "And so falls the House of Wayne," and all kinds of things in there.
Right.
The guy who did the scratch off with Batman on there.
Right. I remember that.
Then little things like that, and I don't remember that being in there. If that is new, then I'm looking forward to it. So
pretty sure. Yeah. A lot of that stuff I don't remember being in the movie at all, and having seen it twice, I'm pretty sure it wasn't. So I'm looking forward to like a new take on it. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Me too. Another thing I'm looking forward to a new take on is this new Ben Affleck solo Batman story. First of all, what do you think of Ben Affleck as Batman, or that whole section of Batman that we did get in Batman v Superman?
I loved him. I acknowledge. I know there was some controversy. Batman's straight up killing people, and in my mind, it's like, all right, yes, but this is supposed to be a broken, sort of at the end of his rope Batman. So I can accept him. He's not necessarily murdering. It's more manslaughter, which is, cutting, splitting hairs.
Right.
But for this interpretation of the character, I can go with it. Yeah. And I want to see what else he can do with it. So I'm excited. Yeah. Particularly when it's not directed by Zack Snyder.
Yeah. I know that, like I said, I've only seen just that one time of it, and I'm sure I'm going to go back and watch it over and over again. I think if they would have had the solo Batman film to begin with, just that, and then lead into Batman v Superman, that would have been a smarter way to go. But then again, I'm a studio head, so that was on them. Now that we know, and it's kind of been known for a while that we're going to be getting a solo Batman movie by Ben Affleck. Now everybody's trying to figure out what direction are they going to be going in. So during this press tour for Batman v Superman, he was asked whether he would base it or not on a certain comic book story, and he responded this: "I think what I would probably do in the same way Zack Snyder did with this movie, which is to borrow certain things from the great comic books, but create an original story around it, because I wouldn't want the fans to already know the story and be familiar, but I would borrow, steal great things that have been done before in comics." Everybody's saying that he's trying to make the ultimate, I just said ultimate. Yeah, I know. The greatest Batman movie possible. And who doesn't want to make the greatest Batman movie possible? I've heard there's going to be all kinds of villains in there. So, of course, what cropped in my mind was 1966 Batman movie with Adam West, which we will be talking about later. I picture the Joker, the Penguin, Catwoman, the Riddler just sitting around and just, kind of corny 60s attitude, I guess, or everything. And I'm like, oh my God, what does he have planned? But, I've always heard that he has his own Batcave and how devoted of a Batman fan he is. So I'm in no way worried about this. I'm more looking forward to this and how he's going to go with the story. Are we going to see, is this going to be kind of a prequel to Batman v Superman? What do you think?
So, like I said already, I'm going to be excited for it no matter what. Like, I have more faith in this film than I did in Batman v Superman, because first of all, he's a great director. I loved Argo.
Yes.
And he's working with a lot of the same team, at least in writing and creatively, that did Argo. So that has got me sold already. And, in terms of having an original story, yeah, that's great. We don't need to have a carbon copy of something that we've already seen. Like, the Nolan films were pretty much their own thing. They took little bits and pieces from stuff from comics, but they didn't wholly adapt just like one or two stories. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do. Whether or not we're going to have, Penguin going, wah, 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 I don't know. But, I guess the only thing that would give me pause is having too many villains in there that would sort of,
I think
overpower the story.
If they do cameos, that's fine. Or if they just give like little Easter eggs, just like little nods, that's fine with me. And I have a feeling that's probably what he's going to do. I mean, I don't know if you want to bring in the Joker just yet, but if it is kind of a prequel to Batman v Superman, you're going to have to show how Robin died, especially it being Jason Todd, or you're going to have flashbacks of what happened. I think it was Batman 89. I believe that was an original story, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was pretty much an original story. I mean, there were bits and pieces of it taken, like, they took inspiration from the Laughing Fish story, where he poisons the water reservoir, and, they change it to poisoning the air. But, other than that, it was pretty much original. Yeah,
and I have no problem with that. I know that he might not be, like, the best actor, and he doesn't have to be. I mean, he is great with, how his portrayal of Bruce Wayne was, how serious he took that, and just his lines in there, how he wrote them. And you could tell that he wrote them directly with Chris Terrio, who also worked on Argo. Jeff Johns, I mean, now that we know he's going to be having a bigger hand in this, I just started watching just even The Flash. I know he had a hand in that, and Arrow, and I know that I have faith in that guy about, what he can do with the universe and how he is with comic book movies. So I'm not worried at all about that. I guess I'm just I'm just anxious. I'm dying to know what's going to happen with this. I want this movie now. I want it today. I want it yesterday. So hopefully we'll get something sooner or later on that. I think right now they're talking about a release date of 2018, last time I heard. So we don't even know what's going to be called. Could be the Batman, could be whatever. I don't care what it's called. Put just Ben Affleck in that Batman suit, fighting Jared Leto, whatever. Give it to me right now. So, all right. Moving on here into some different area. Let's go back talking about James Bond. Last couple weeks, actually, I've been talking about how speculation, and there's still rumors out there whether Daniel Craig is going to return or not. It's kind of like an election. Daniel Craig, watch 2016. Is he returning for James Bond or not? This is not, this is confirmed, but it doesn't say whether this means that he's not going to be James Bond, but it leans towards the fact that he's not going to be James Bond. Daniel Craig is actually signed on to star an upcoming limited run series called Purity for Showtime. It's been confirmed for a 20-episode run that will play out over 2 years on Showtime, according to Variety, and it's set to start filming in 2017. Now, I don't know how, when an actor, gets involved and he's also going to executive produce, that tells me that he's going to be heavily involved. Daniel Craig was even a co-producer on the Bond, at least Spectre he had his name on there, but he also did help find the director for Skyfall, that being Sam Mendes. So when I heard this news, and when everybody else heard this news, all of a sudden speculation's like, okay, this is the unofficial sign. He's not coming back as James Bond. However, he has not confirmed that he is not going to be James Bond. So what say you from everything you've heard so far?
For me, and I think I've said this before, is that, until I hear an official release from Eon or MGM, Sony, or Daniel Craig, I'm gonna keep believing that he'll be back. And I think so. Roger Moore, when all this was going on, tweeted out this tweet that was very good. It said, "Why is the media intent on saying Daniel Craig has quit as Bond? He is not. Mm-hmm. He's an incumbent actor in the role until he says otherwise."
Yep. And
I think Roger Moore would know one or two things about being James Bond.
Yes, definitely. Especially since Roger was, I think he's still, I don't know if he keeps in touch with Eon, but he definitely knows what it's like to be a part of that family.
Yeah.
Especially for being Bond as long as he was. So, yeah, like I said, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Until it's officially confirmed by eon until it's confirmed by Daniel Craig himself, then he's still James Bond. But it still hasn't stopped the press and all these, tabloids, whatever, saying, oh, well, the next James Bond is going to be Tom Hiddleston. And even at, while you and I were at Awesome Con this weekend, which we will talk about in a minute, don't worry, is it Wizard World? Tom Hiddleston was actually there. And he was speaking on a panel there, and this was in Philadelphia, as reported by comicbook.com, and he kind of addressed these Bond rumors. He said, I'm sorry to disappoint everybody. I don't think the announcement is coming, but I'm very gratified to hear the enthusiasm. There's not much that I can say that I haven't already said, but I know. Your guess is as good as mine, to be honest. So this almost shoots down, okay, well, he's not going to be James Bond. Very good chance now. We've heard Sam Mendes come out in the last week saying, okay, and this was the director of Skyfall and Spectre, saying, okay, it's up to Barbara Broccoli, Eon Productions, they have the final word, and it's not going to be somebody that we expect. Clearly, Hiddleston is somebody we expect, so let's put two and two together here. It's probably not going to be Hiddleston. We can just, I almost would put money on it, and people do this. They actually put bets wherever it is, Vegas and Atlantic City, wherever around the world. They put on bets like whatever the odds are of who the next Bond actor is going to be. So as much, like I said, I've only seen Hiddleston play Loki. I liked him as Loki. Could I see him playing James Bond? All the pictures I've seen of him in a suit and a tux and a gun. Yeah, he looks like he could play James Bond. You and I can put on a tux and slick back our hair and hold a martini glass and, have blonde on one side and a brunette on the other. And hey, we could look like James Bond. What guy wouldn't want to? But, I would say it's probably, I wouldn't bet on a sure thing, but I'd say it's pretty sure that, why would Hiddleston just, shoot down these rumors if he didn't have any idea? What do you think?
I think so. Well, so I've seen Tom Hiddleston. I've started watching, part of what started all these rumors is, his role in this, I'm trying to remember who did, it's a British TV show called, or it's an adaptation of a, John le Carre work called The Night Manager.
Yeah.
Where he plays a spy.
Right.
And I've watched the first, 2 episodes, I believe. And I could just from basing it on that, I could see him playing the role. It's what I've heard people say is, and I haven't gotten to this part, I think yet, is that the story is very similar to License to Kill in a way, in that he's, infiltrating a criminal organization and trying to expose it from within. But, he's got the physique, he could potentially have the look.
Yeah.
But if he's pretty much saying it's not him, then it's probably not him. Now, personally, as I've said before, I'd love for Daniel Craig to come back in the role.
Me too.
But when he says that he is done, my choice, and it's a sort of left field choice, is Dan Stevens, who played Matthew from Downton Abbey, and he was going to be the new Beast in the Beauty and the Beast movie.
Okay.
So he looks very good in a tux.
All right.
And
that's a start.
I've seen in Downton Abbey, but he also has like I have some friends who say, he seems too much of a goody two shoes. I said, all right, watch. There's a movie called The Guest where it's very, very dark. It also involves a lot of action and a lot of guns. So he can handle that part of the role. But I would say, he'd be my choice maybe 5 years down the road when he'd be the right age for it.
I think, and another thing people have to remember, and I still say that the comment from Daniel Craig last year, as Spectre was coming out about slashing the wrist, I still think that is taken out of context. Interviews I've read before with Daniel Craig, he's just kind of has that, he's got a very dark sense of humor. And I think that's just, I'm just so tired that I'm just going to run out in traffic. I don't want to play this anymore. And I think that he's getting a bad rap for that. Now, on the other hand, I could look at it is that, maybe, he's gotten cocky with this saying, oh, well, I've done my time as Bond. I'm too good for this, whatever. But I really, at least in my mind, I like to think that he's not like that. I really think that I think he's an overall good guy, or at least I want him to be. And I think that he's either really incredibly tired or he was just so burnt out because that movie took a lot out of him. And I could imagine that it would. So
yeah, if I recall when he had that interview, it was like maybe a day or two after they had wrapped shooting, so of course he's exhausted by that point.
And that was a very big Bond movie. I mean, almost as big as Skyfall, if not slightly bigger. I think in terms of traveling, in terms of the action sequences in there too.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that he hurt his knee in there. So, and he had to go back to New York for emergency surgery. So, who can blame him? Here's another name that we can throw into the list. You might be familiar with this guy. His name is Aidan Turner. He's a star from the show Poldark. He's now favored to be announced as James Bond. He's 32 years old. He's Irish, and apparently, he has the look. At least what I've seen online, he does. All the I guess gamblers and odds bettors, they're saying, he's the lead right now. He's best known also for being in Peter Jackson's The Hobbit trilogy. He was Dwarf Killy in there. So, like I said, add that to the names of people that want to be thrown in this list. Now, let me say this. The names on this list are not just male anymore, as I reported last week. Last week, I threw in Gillian Anderson. She came out on Twitter and Instagram saying she wants to be the first female James Bond. Now you have Game of Thrones actress Emilia Clarke. She wants to be the next James Bond. So in an interview with the Daily Star, she said she would love to play James Bond, and she said her suggested Bond boy co-star is also, or could be, she would like to be Leonardo DiCaprio. No doubt about it. And so I ended up doing a Twitter poll about this. And, I'm glad that you're here tonight, like I said, because I want to hear your input, and hopefully you can speak. Maybe you can have another point of view on this. I don't know. Should a woman be the next 007? So posted on this on Twitter, and 67% of the people who took this vote said no, and 33% said yes. So, I can't. I mean, this isn't the first time this has come up. This isn't the first time it's come up just in movies in general, for even Ghostbusters and whatever other movies, other superhero movies. And I gotta say that I'm still against it. And I'm not saying it's sexist. It's just that James Bond, in my mind, or not in my mind, it's just how Ian Fleming wrote it. It is a male Secret Service British agent. He doesn't even have to be British anymore. We've seen that. We've seen that an Irish actor as Pierce Brosnan, Scottish such as Sean Connery. I mean, Australian George Lazenby. It doesn't matter their background, and it's just that a female. I don't know if that's going to work. So, what do you think?
So for me, I'm kind of in the same way that I think that James Bond should be a man. However, that doesn't mean that we can't have the adventures of another 00 agent who happens to be a woman, and I'd be perfectly fine with that. But I see this in a way similar to, and I know you're not very familiar with Doctor Who, but every time that the Doctor Who's actor says they want to leave, there's always should it be a woman? Should it be someone of some minority race?
Mm-hmm.
And with Doctor Who, it makes sense to do that because he's an alien, he changes shapes and all that. And any of the Doctor Who fans will know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But with James Bond, yes, the actors have changed over the years, but it's not something where a gender swap would make sense.
Yeah.
If they had maybe, a one-off movie as a Jane Bond thing, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Or even a series of Jane Bond as its own separate series.
Mm-hmm.
But there should still be the main James Bond series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back right after Die Another Day came out, and this is when, Pierce Brosnan was still James Bond. Halle Berry was the supporting actress in there. And of course, for anybody who hasn't seen the movie, she was playing Jinx Jordan. She was an NSA secret agent. She was pretty much supposed to be a female James Bond. Same idea. And it just didn't work for me. There was always rumors that they wanted to do a spin-off for her. Especially, an actress of her caliber. Big A-lister. And it didn't work then for me. Maybe it was the actress choice. And they've tried it wasn't exactly James Bond, but Angelina Jolie, she was I believe she was a secret agent in the movie Salt.
Yeah, she was.
what's the one, Lucy? I believe that kind of was like Scarlett Johansson, kind of a super secret agent in a way. I could be wrong about that. I didn't see that movie, but I mean,
didn't either.
yeah, I didn't. It didn't really appeal to me. But still, I mean, we've seen. I don't know if that would work. Like you said, if they want to do something, just even it doesn't have to be James Bond. That'll work. But James Bond is James Bond. You might as well just say eventually, it might happen. I guess, Batman eventually. I mean, they have Batgirl, but could Batgirl draw an audience? Could a female James Bond draw an audience? I don't know. I don't know if the world is ready for that. I really don't know. And, like I said, people can call it sexist, they can call it misogynist, whatever they want to call it. But I still think that, it wouldn't work. I don't know. But, speaking of actors who could have played James Bond, one, you kind of had a chance, not kind of, you really did have a chance to talk to over the weekend. And I'm talking about a gentleman who actually did play Batman, and this was all the way back in the 60s, the original he was, yeah, we could kind of say he was the original Batman.
The original TV Batman.
The original TV Batman, yes. Well, there was a couple iterations before him, and I always forget their names, but we'll just say it, Adam West, the Batman, and he was down over in Washington, D.C. this weekend at AwesomeCon, as were we. You actually got to ask him a question, and this was really cool. I want to play a clip of it real quick. If you want to set it up here real quick, how you got a chance to talk to him.
Yeah, so I was at AwesomeCon this past weekend, which is a comic book and movie and TV convention for the Washington, D.C. area, and two of their, name guests were Adam West and Burt Ward. Now, I managed to get some VIP tickets for the con. Well, not managed to, I paid for them. Mm-hmm. But so when I got there, got in line for their panel and got my seats, before everyone else, before the other regular admission people got in, I positioned myself right next to where the mic would be.
Nice.
Just so I made sure I could get an early question. And I actually happened to get the first question for them. Mm-hmm. And if we want to go ahead and listen to what my question was.
Yep, let's play that real quick.
I love you both in the classic series, Batman, and Adam, I love you in Family Guy. So I got a question.
For me.
So, there was a rumor that you once turned down the role of James Bond because you thought Bond should be British. But if you hadn't turned it down, how would you have played it? And could you give me your Bond, James Bond?
How would I have played it? Interesting question. James Bond.
And there was also another person that had the same exact question as you did. Kinda.
We've had 50 years of this nonsense, and we're still going on. I did Batman, as you know, and then I was asked to play Bond. And the Beatles asked me to play drums. Now, that would have meant that I would be...
Three Bs.
Three Bs. Nobody would be that famous in the universe. I'm so touched. No, the Beatles didn't ask me to do anything. And I was asked about playing Bond, if you missed the other comment. And I said, no, I think it should be, an Englishman. And I also had a contract to do something else. But I would have loved to have given that a shot. So they're talking to me now. Even at my age, they might even dye my hair.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, that's wow. It's very interesting because we always hear about, we always think about what would have been like to have a certain actor play James Bond or a certain actor play Batman. In this case, I mean, especially for this show, it's, combining the two. I mean, you have a guy who is playing Batman and he had the chance to play James Bond. Wow. What do you think? Would you have seen him as James Bond?
I think, well, it all depends on how good his British accent could have been.
Yeah.
But I think so. And I did a little research into this because I knew about this rumor, and he was supposed to be a cast, or they supposedly asked, since he confirmed it, they asked him around the time of On Her Majesty's Secret Service when they were looking for someone after Sean Connery.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whereas I don't know if he would have had the right tone for that movie.
No.
I think he would have done well in some of the Roger films.
I was just thinking that. I was thinking that a lot, especially based on that interview and what I remember seeing of that TV show. Just that kind of like he knows he's James Bond or he knows he's Batman and he knows he's going to win, but he has fun with it. And, I'm not sure how he feels about, how they've taken the character of Batman these days, in that darker, very serious tone and no humor, as they were saying for quite a while. Actually, I went and did some more research about actors that could have played James Bond but didn't. This one's no surprise. Hugh Jackman, Ewan McGregor, Liam Neeson. He had a chance during the time that Pierce Brosnan did. Older actors like Cary Grant, Rod Taylor, Clint Eastwood. How about that?
Huh.
And I've heard that before because, this goes into the whole Batman Beyond. A lot of people wanted him to play old Bruce Wayne and then they would have, I always forget his name, the character of actual Batman Beyond.
Terry McGinnis.
Thank you. And he would be the one training Terry McGinnis. And I could see that. I mean, we'd probably never see it in this lifetime of a Batman Beyond film because not many people know that character and that'd be a pretty risky take for Warner Brothers to put on screen. But what if? That would have been really cool to see. I don't know. But he, like Adam West, he did feel strongly that Bond should be British, and he denied any role primarily on that basis. Like I said, another one, Dominic West, they were talking about him being the star instead of Pierce Brosnan. So there's always a lot of actor names out there, but, especially somebody in the Batman universe to be considered for James Bond, that's always cool. So, going back to more information about Awesome Con, I want to talk a little bit more about it. Like you said, it was set in DC. Of course, this is the time of the year. It kind of started in late spring where all the Comic-Con conventions start. So now we're in like the prime season for this. They had Wizard World that came out this weekend also. For anybody who's never been to a Comic-Con, let me just say this. I started off about a couple years ago, first started off at Baltimore Comic-Con, and I had no idea what to expect. I think I threw on like one of the, light up Tony Stark, arc reactor chest t-shirts that I have. I still wear it to every Avengers movie. And, yes, I can say that I'm a part Marvel fan. DC fanboys can, send me hate mail about that. That's okay. So I went there and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. All these costumes out here and just like all the comic writers, the artists that are out there and all the collectibles that you can find there. And it's such a great time that I went to New York last year and I even went on a Thursday with one of my friends and it was huge. I mean, and no disrespect to Baltimore Comic-Con, it's a great convention, but New York was even bigger. I mean, just everything that they had there, they had at least like 3 different floors, I think. And you have the celebrities that are out there. Like you said, Adam West was out there. I know that characters from Arrow were out there. Burt Ward was there. Doctor Who was there, I think.
So Peter Capaldi was there, and Jenna Coleman.
Yes.
Who are actors from Doctor Who.
Right. And Bill Nye the Science Guy was there. When I came in, I kept hearing this yelling, and then I heard some cheering, and I'm like, what's going on in there? Like, oh, it's Bill Nye. I was like, what? I was like, I know the name, but I didn't know he was going to be here. That's pretty cool. So, for anybody who's never been to one, definitely try to get out. There's always one. They're all around the United States. There's ones in Arizona. Of course, the big, mother of all Comic-Cons still to this day is San Diego Comic-Con, which takes place in July. I don't know the exact date for that. But still, I love, and I don't know what you like about it so much, but I think one of my favorite things is, of course, the costumes. now that I've gotten into, dressing up as Batman, I got my Batman Begins cowl. I've tweaked my costume in the last year or so, but it's just fun to walk around. You see other people dressed up. If it's Batman, if it's Robin, if it's Deadpool, plenty of Jokers out there. Harley Quinn's obviously the big one now. All kinds of costumes, and it's just everybody's having a great time. Everybody is just down to earth, and I love it. And you get to take pictures with them, and you have other cosplayers out there, just people that you're just fans of it, and they just want to take a picture with you. What's your favorite part about Comic-Con?
So my favorite part is, I like going to the panels and seeing all the different celebrities, asking them questions. But I also like, some of these cons also have a lot of good comic book talent, so artists and writers.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the people I met was actually, last time I was on the podcast, I talked about the comic book Grayson, where it's like, Dick Grayson pretending to be James Bond, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So the writer of that, his name is Tom King, and he's actually going to be the new Batman comic book writer, the main title.
Yeah.
And so I got to talk to him a bit and talk to him about the issue that I loved with, where Dick Grayson makes up his own theme song to the tune of Goldfinger.
Yes.
And, he also dresses in a tux and meets some people, some girls with some Bond girl names. And I have the issue in front of me, so I'll give you some samples.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Honoroff, Miss Quiver, Miss Peter Breaker, Miss Humpter, Miss Sheep's Bottom, and Miss Balzac.
Wow. That's almost to the point of Austin Powers kind of names.
And apparently, what he told me about that is like he was having so much fun creating those names that one of them was inspired by someone who works in the DC office, whose name is, I don't remember what it was, but it was similar to Balzac. But DC told him, no, you can't use that. That's actually the name of one of our employees.
Wow.
So Balzac.
Nice.
But so I talked to him about, what it's gonna be like to write Batman, and so someone asked him about, what characters he wants to use, and so he talked about Joker,
mm-hmm.
and he said, I don't want to use Joker off the bat because, the Joker is the end all be all.
Yeah.
And he's the, opposite number. And it's like, so you got to work up to it. You have to do a few runs, a few arcs, and get people like, maybe drop a few hints about Joker.
Mm-hmm.
But do everything else good,
mm-hmm.
and then make them excited. So I want to see what this guy's going to do with Joker.
Yeah.
And I think that's the perfect way to do it. You don't want to do Joker right off the bat.
Mm-mm.
But actually, if I can, there's actually, either 2 weeks ago, a comic came out called DC Rebirth,
mm-hmm.
which was Geoff Johns' last comic book that he's going to write for a while because he's going to be busy with the movie side stuff.
Slightly busy, yes.
Yeah. So, and there's a bunch of revelations in the comic that are not going to be as important to Batman fans. But there is one that was big, was that there apparently have been 3 different people who were the Joker, like in the comic universe. There were 3 different Jokers.
About this. Yeah. Okay.
So that's going to be interesting how they take it. It's not as shocking a revelation as, say, Captain America always being a Hydra agent, but it's an interesting twist.
Oh my God, I had so much fun with that yesterday. Every time I saw Captain America, I'm like, "Hail Hydra!" They're like, "Oh, that doesn't hold true." Or they're joking. We're having good fun with it, but it's like
that's funny.
They're like lies.
I was actually dressed as Captain America yesterday, and I was expecting more of that.
Oh, I had
2
to
all day.
Yeah,
and I was like, but whenever someone said that, I just shouted it back because I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have fun with this.
Oh yeah, what'd you say back?
I would just shout back, "Hail Hydra!"
You should have put a sign just like something around your neck saying, "I have no affiliation with Hydra." Or something.
I'm gonna have to do that next time because that would be fun.
Because it's obviously such a big thing. I mean, as long as the fanboys can have fun with this, that and whatever I know it's off topic here. Whatever direction Marvel's going on with that, I think it's ballsy, and I think that they probably are onto something because Marvel is they know what they're doing over there, so they wouldn't just do something without having an idea. So I mean, who knows? Maybe Batman is secretly the Joker, in disguise. That would be the end all right there.
That would be the kind of equivalent twist, yeah.
Yeah, it would be. Batman killed his parents. Who knows? Somebody actually, I think it was one of the Robins, actually laid down next to me, or laid down on the floor next to me, and I just kind of just stared down looking at him in disappointment, and they took out a picture of that. So,
nice.
And the big thing, of course, at some of the conventions is that, people kind of troll Batman, and then they just fall down like they're Martha and Thomas Wayne, and they just put flowers, or they're holding roses or something. And I was kind of hoping I would see that yesterday, and I didn't. But yeah, some of the cool costumes I saw. There was a new Ben Affleck Batman, with the goggles and the jacket. I posted all this on Instagram. There were some really good Harley Quinns out there. Of course, there's the Joker. That's the Heath Ledger Joker. Still remains one of the most popular out there, I think.
There were a lot of them this year.
Yeah.
But so one of my other favorite things about comic book conventions is also meeting the up and coming talent. So, and also commissioning artwork. So one of the things I commissioned was a picture of James Bond or a sketch of James Bond and Captain America standing back to back. And then in the background you have half a Spectre logo and half a Hydra logo.
Nice.
So I'm thinking, I was all right, I know the guy who's doing it because he's actually works in my local comic book shop, Phantom Comics. And so when he's done with it, and I'm sure it'll be good, but I want to see, all right, I could also have him do something similar with Batman and James Bond back to back and then have some sort of logo in the background too. So I have a series of them.
Yeah, that would be... Yeah, I mean, of course, the closest I tried to come up with that was my logo with the gun barrel and the bat symbol. That's the closest I could come up with that because I couldn't think of any other way to tie in Batman and James Bond. But I mean, people still, of course, say, "Oh, Batman would win over James Bond." That's a debate for the end of the year. I still tease that, but I know who would win. Yeah, Comic Cons are great. Like I said, there's look online. I'll try to post out a link for all the Comic Cons that are near the area. For anybody to see. I know there's one up and coming. I think there's one in Delaware. There's at least a few in New York. Of course, the biggest one in New York is in September. I'll be going back to that one. Baltimore. Yeah. Virginia has one, I think, in the next month or two.
Richmond, right?
I think so. I have to look into that. Yeah. But, like you said, and you can talk to the writers that are out there and the artists. And like I said, they're great people. And those are the ones you really want to support because they are the up and coming people out there. The photographers that are out there, the collectibles. I mean, you can find, all these rare comic books and they'll sign it for you or if it's already signed. Some of the pictures that I got yesterday, I can't wait to hang these up. So definitely make it out to a Comic-Con if you haven't been to one before. So, all right, let's move on here. We are running short on time, so I'm going to kind of have to do some highlights here with the birthdays. Let's see. Isabella Scorpio, one of my favorite Bond girls, had a birthday celebrated on June 4th, best known as Natalia Semyonova in GoldenEye. What do you think? Would she rank one of your top Bond girls?
I don't know about that top, but she is I loved her as a Bond girl, and I loved her as being the first Bond girl with Pierce Brosnan. I think she was really good. And
let me say, she is getting better with age. I don't know how, but Natalia still looks like even better. Let's see, Admiral Roebuck in Tomorrow Never Dies. Jeffrey Palmer celebrated birthday on June 4th. Let's see, Malcolm Sinclair, best known as Dryden in Casino Royale. He had maybe 5 minutes in there, but
memorable 5 minutes.
It was a great 5 minutes of black and white. Probably one of the best we've had in a James Bond movie. He celebrated birthday on June 5th. Let's see. Tom Jones, who sung the song Thunderball, celebrates a birthday on June 7th. Nancy Sinatra celebrates a birthday on June 8th. She sung the main song for You Only Live Twice. And Bernie Casey, and this one a lot of people don't know about because this is known as the hidden James Bond.
Yes.
He played Felix Leiter in Never Say Never Again. He celebrates a birthday on June 8th. That is a story for another day, but let me say that he did do a very good job as Felix Leiter. It was a cool take, and I think even Casino Royale kind of borrowed on that take. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of elements have been borrowed by Never Say Never Again. Like I said, we'll get into that another time, but I do want to make sure we have time for this last segment of the show called Versus. This is the part of the show where we compare movies of the Batman and or James Bond universes versus other franchises in the same wheelhouse. So this one is a big one that's up for debate, and I think you're going to enjoy this one, Christian. This one this week's versus is going to be Casino Royale versus the Bourne Identity. Now, there is no secret that, first of all, they had the same initials. Yes, we know that. And they are secret agents. Now, that's probably where everything kind of, the differences are going to be endless here, but the similarities are still there too. The fact that Jason Bourne comes out in July, a lot of people are anticipating that, myself included. And this has always been a comparison whether, Jason Bourne or who would win, or these Jason Bourne and James Bond could ever be seen on the same screen. Let me just say that I don't think that's ever going to happen, but let's go into the movie itself. First of all, starting with Casino Royale. This was Daniel Craig's first James Bond movie, was released in 2006, coming off What Happened in Die Another Day. Now, I say what happened, just a little over CGI, taking a little farther than most would have liked. So, as they like to say, bring it back to earth, bring it down a few notches, more grounded, more reality-based. You see James Bond on his first mission. You see him get his 2 license to kills, like we talked about Dryden. We see him at the very beginning. What a great scene, sneaking up in the office, and just how he played it so cool. We also see a James Bond who's not invincible. And when I say that, I'm saying that, he makes a lot of mistakes. He's figuring out who to trust. And, in that same thing, he is stripped of everything. He has no gadgets. The Aston Martin makes an appearance, but in a very subtle way. He doesn't care how he gets his martini. When he's asked about, shaken or stirred, sir? Do I look like I give a damn? We see, no Q branch, like I said, no money penny. It's James Bond, and we just see him, making the mistakes as he goes, and he becomes the James Bond that we know and love. When we see, going into the Bourne Identity here, and I know I missed a lot of stuff, but I want to give a full review. When we go into the Bourne Identity, we see Bourne, and it's Matt Damon being probably one of the best parts he's ever played. And, when he was brought on to play this role, everybody didn't know. He's like, well, Matt Damon as a spy. Nobody would have predicted that. I mean, we're talking Good Will Hunting and the guy who did like all those Kevin Smith movies. And with all due respect to Kevin Smith, but I mean, no one could foresee Matt Damon being a spy and being taken seriously. And this guy barely even smiled in the movie, and, he's playing a spy with amnesia. He's found in the water, and he has to rediscover who he is, and when he discovers who he is, it's like, oh my god, I was a secret agent, I was killing people, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, as Chris Cooper liked to say, well, you don't have a choice in that matter, son. And, and we see him trying to escape the CIA and try to become, get away from it, and try to also remember everything that happened. So both of them are great movies, great startup movies too, and they are even great standalone movies, if not. Christian, what do you see with the similarities and the differences between the two? What do you think?
I think the main similarity that there's gonna be, seen between both of those is just the more grounded take on the world of spies. With Bourne Identity, it's very gritty. I know it wasn't until the second movie they started doing a lot of the handheld shots and the shaky cam.
Yeah.
But there's still that element of this is the realism, which Casino Royale also had. But in terms of differences, I see they're very different characters and they're very, very different stories. One is about someone who's starting basically in the spy agency, and one is about basically someone trying to leave it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, they're very, like I said, they're very different stories, but still both really good. Like, I love all of the Bourne movies. I even like Legacy, even though it doesn't have Matt Damon. I like that they put in the Philippines because I'm Filipino. So
nice.
anytime you see the Philippines in the movie, it moves it up a little bit in my estimation.
Gotcha. Kind of like how Quantum of Solace did, because it was shot in Chile, and that's actually where I was born. I was born in Santiago, Chile.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so when I heard that it was being filmed there, I'm like, all right, I'm already going to love this film. It's already going to move up at least one grade in my mind. But, going back to Bond and Bourne, I mean, they are very different characters. at the time, though, we're coming off the events of September 11th. We didn't know the whole spy genre kind of changed after that, and just how movies were made were changed after that. And, like you said, how it was more a grounded approach. We have to be careful with the action sequences that we have. We have to respond to even terrorism. James Bond did that, and they even make the remark after September 11th when the stock market crashed, and they, about how the chief was trying to sabotage an airplane, or how the secret organization, eventually known as Spectre. With Bourne, it was more about assassinations, and and the character himself. I mean, they're both great character studies. The action, great chase sequences in there. The shaky cam, that's definitely one that came more into the Bourne Identity. Everybody's like, oh, well, maybe these franchises could cross paths. Who would win between a fight between Jason Bourne and James Bond? I don't think that's ever going to happen. And even if it did, I still think that Bond would win. Even beyond the gadgets, I still think he would win. Now, another thing that has always come between these two franchises is James Bond barring off Jason Bourne and Bourne barring off James Bond. Now, Bourne Identity did come first, in 2002. Casino Royale was, in 2006. You kind of see that grounded, we're going to have our character have feelings. James Bond never really had feelings, he did when Tracy did die on Her Majesty's Secret Service. But after that, after he killed the two guys in Casino Royale in the stairwell, he takes off his clothes, or he takes off his shirt. He's wiping the blood off of his face. He takes whatever he's drinking, Scotch whiskey. He takes a drink of that, and then he just does now what's kind of known as, or at least what I like to call the spy pose, where you look in the mirror and you're like, what did I just do? Bourne has done that enough. And, I could definitely say maybe that was borrowed on there.
I think there's some inspiration in terms of just the tone of it, but in terms of direct, character beats and story, probably not.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what was in Casino Royale, it took from the original book,
exactly,
which I'm a huge fan of. So,
yeah, I think that we'll get into this another time with Quantum of Solace. Now, that's definitely going to be a versus I definitely look forward to talking about versus a Bourne movie also. I'll wait a little while longer right before the new Bourne comes out for that. But, I will say that will be one that Bourne or Jason Bourne and Bond would definitely be more comparable with, Bond barring more elements of a Bourne movie, and, definitely when it comes to photography and how a film is edited, because, actually a couple editors and director of photography, worked on both movies. So, yeah. So, but anyway, both great movies, and if you love spy movies, check them both out. I'm obviously the bigger Bond film fan, but I still love Bourne. It's different. It's cool seeing a American take on a CIA agent, and definitely something to check out. So,
I'm looking forward to. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I said I'm looking forward to that too, especially since seems like part of it's going to be set in Las Vegas, so we'll see how many of the same locations they'll use from Diamonds Are Forever. And maybe we'll see a car flip on two wheels.
I was going to say, if there's a Mustang on two wheels in there, then we're going to definitely have to have a versus on that. So there's not going to be a matchup for the week this week, just because we're out of time here. So that about wraps it up for this episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. Please subscribe on iTunes and or Spreaker. Make sure that you rate this show and leave a comment for me. Remember, 5-star review, and leave a nice comment, and share the episode with your friends. I'd really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at Batman vs. Bond and Instagram, and like me on the Batman vs. James Bond Facebook page. Christian, always great to have you, buddy. You are always welcome back. Anytime you want to talk Bond, let me know, man.
All right, thanks for having me on.
Yep, I hope you had a great time. And like Christian, if you are interested in being a guest on the show, please direct message me and we can set something up. Like James Bond, I will return. Thank you for listening, everyone. Until next time, peace out.